Hello, I'm Malcolm Hazlett.
I'm Janice Baker. Is history important to today's innovative generation?
And what's new for today's older generation who are history?
This and more next on Our Time.
Hello.
Here we are.
Janice, it's lovely that you're back from holidays. Have you readjusted?
Oh, no, it takes a while. You think, it's always lovely to come home after you've had a nice holiday.
Yes.
It is lovely, but it's so cold.
Oh, yeah.
It was so hot where we were. It was
here
really
in South
hot.
Australia, we've been going through this extraordinary winter. I think all the
Everywhere?
southern part of the country has.
Yeah.
We're in the wrong state. For you viewers in Queensland, you've had a very fabulous time while we've been all freezing. But, history will tell us whether these strange weather patterns are exactly what everybody's talking about with global warming. And history is very important. What did you learn at school with history?
Well, see, I grew up in England, so my history was different.
English history?
English history.
Yes, but I grew up in Australia.
So did you have Australian history?
English history.
English history.
Because in the 50s, everything was really about Australia was sort of still a colony of Britain. But we have a brilliant history, although it's not that old as some of the more established countries, perhaps in Europe. Here in South Australia, in fact all over Australia, there are all sorts of museums and places of history, and we're very lucky to have Greg Mackie joining us.
I thought he'd never get to
episode. I just needed to set up that whole history thing.
Welcome, Greg. Welcome to the program.
Good to see you both.
Greg, you've been on the program before because you've had such a variety of positions, CEO positions and so on, through the arts here in South Australia.
Correct.
Just what's happened to you since we talked to you last?
Well, I think the last time that I was on your program, I might have been heading up the Office for the Ageing, and so I was South Australia's Ageing Provocateur.
And which is in the right place with Janice.
Which will be a lovely segue for your next guest.
Exactly.
And about 16 months ago, I commenced as the Chief Executive Officer of the History Trust of South Australia. And
well, we need to hear more about that. How did you change from what actually brought you into that position?
I left the public sector for about 3 years and was working as a consultant, and decided that I missed being in an organisational setting in a leadership role, and so I decided I'd start looking for another opportunity and a return to the arts. Once you've been in the arts, once the arts gets into your blood, it's very, very hard to get away. And I'm a victim.
But I guess being in a position where you can make a difference makes the difference too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Malcolm. I've always enjoyed being able to make a contribution. I'm very committed to the importance of public service, whether I was in my own business as a bookseller, I was in a public service role, and of course running Arts SA and being Deputy Chief Executive in the Department of Premier and Cabinet, and then the Office for Ageing. They were all opportunities for me to ply my trade, make
pretty
a
good pedigree, though, isn't it? Really,
I've been very, very privileged. I've been given opportunities at critical points in my career where I've had the ability to make a contribution, and so now here I am back in the cultural heritage sector, looking after museums and the state history collection, and so that's my job.
So yes, but it's a job that covers sort of more fingers than you've got on your hand. So what are the organisations that you're looking after now?
We operate three dedicated museums and another establishment called the Centre of Democracy, which we opened at the end of May this year. And the Centre of Democracy is a small exhibition in the Institute building on the corner of Kintore Avenue and North Terrace in Adelaide. The building is a part of the State Library of South Australia, and in that venue we tell the story of South Australia's journey of democracy.
Oh, is that where your old office used to be?
I was once many a year ago.
Yes,
That's
in that
correct.
building. Oh, that's
exactly
a fantastic
right.
location.
Yeah, it was a wonderful
It's opposite
location.
the
War Memorial.
The War Memorial, thank you.
Correct.
I couldn't think of the name.
So the Centre of Democracy is a place where the stories of South Australia's democracy are shared, and there are objects there like former Governor Dame Roma Mitchell's hat and Don Dunstan's famous pink hot pink shorts.
But how do we know that I don't know it's there? How
I
do
didn't know
people
that was
find
there.
out that where to go to find these things?
By watching this program, Janice.
Well,
That's
obviously.
exactly right. I'm just sharing that with people.
Yeah, but who does come through?
It is relatively new.
Yeah.
We have an education program, and
Right.
so groups of school children come through, which of course is very important.
Yes.
The History Trust of South Australia also operates the Migration Museum a little further down Kintore Avenue, where the stories of South Australia's migrant waves are captured and shared, and it's a very, very wonderful, special place. We also operate the South Australia's Maritime Museum at Port Adelaide, and so we're in the boats business as well.
We've had somebody on the program before with the maritime.
Yes,
people.
you quite well would have.
Yeah.
And we also operate the National Motor Museum up at Birdwood
right.
in the Adelaide Hills. So we're geographically quite spread.
You are.
And on top of that, we present the annual South Australia's History Festival, which is a statewide, month-long celebration of community stories, community history that happens every year.
What month?
In May.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So,
I spoke too soon.
South Australia actually has a very interesting history that a lot of South Australians don't actually realise, because it was the settlement here in South Australia was a very unusual way of settlement, wasn't it?
It certainly was,
for
Malcolm.
the Commonwealth.
Compared to the communities or the colonies that were established in New South Wales and in Victoria, and of course in Van Diemen's Land, as Tasmania was known, they were established as penal settlements, and then society and the rest of community evolved. In South Australia, we were established under an Act of the British Parliament and as a designed community. In the early 19th century, there was a reform movement that was taking hold in Britain and in Europe, and it designed. There was a concept for a differently designed community that was not a penal settlement. It was a place where religious tolerance was
a utopia. They really felt that that's what it was
experiment. And so the province of South Australia was established, and of course Europeans first arrived in 1836. It goes without saying that, of course, Australia's Indigenous people were here in South Australia for tens of thousands of years before that, and so there was a journey of occupation and settlement and displacement. That is a part of our story as well.
Well, I think every country, though, has a story like that. I mean, talking about the UK, obviously that was taken over by the Norsemen who came down through Ireland and so on. So every country has had this
waves
journey.
Of people
coming
sometimes through conquest, sometimes through migration.
So we have a short but very interesting history for European migration, but a long and interesting history, obviously, with the native migration.
Absolutely, and of course, since the initial European settlements, of course, we now enjoy dozens and dozens of different cultural backgrounds, waves of people who've come here, of course, more recently from Africa, but also from Asia. We are truly a very, very remarkable multicultural society. Australia as a whole and South Australia as a microcosm.
I'm just thinking, when I came, I think late 60s, that there was a big intake from Italians and Greek, whereas now it's more Chinese.
Northern Africa and
Africa.
and parts of Southeast Asia, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we see a huge influx of different people with different coloured skin coming through the theatre, and it's fantastic to see the shows that are coming into the theatre that I run as well, because you hear the different music coming out or the different way of doing the shows, and sometimes we think, goodness, starting at 11 o'clock at night. And the Africans say, well, they don't come out until after 11 o'clock at night. So, it's the differences are really wonderful to embrace. But Greg, the reason that we asked you on the program was because of a newspaper article talking about the lack of history, Australian history, being taught in schools, and that's not entirely accurate, is it?
No, it's not entirely accurate, but you're quite correct that there was some media coverage of a recent decision by the South Australian Certificate of Education Board to cease offering a dedicated subject called Australian History at Year 12 level. That follows a decision that was taken about 7 years ago to stop offering a dedicated subject called Australian History in Year 11. However, to give a balance to that, I also need to acknowledge that under the national curriculum now, all kids of school age from years 1 through to year 10, as a part of Australian studies, have quite a rich curriculum that tells stories of Australia's history. Our view at the History Trust was simply that we regret that that stops at year 10, and that in order to continue to learn more and to learn through Australian history, that students need to do modern history and then choose an elective as a part of that. So it's not correct that Australian history is not being taught, but it's being taught in different modules in different parts of different subjects. And I need to acknowledge that.
Yes,
but equally, as the Chief Executive of the History Trust of South Australia, my job is to bang the tambourine for Australian history.
Well, I agree. And the point you've made is very valid. We need to know a world history now, but we also need to know our history as to how we fit.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Greg, thank you. Can you stay around till the end and we'll continue this chat with our next guest?
I'd be delighted.
Fantastic. And we'll be back with more, in fact, with Jayne Boase in just a moment.
Here we are again.
We are.
Back, even.
We are. And we're talking about history on this particular episode.
Yes.
Because we're history. Well, we are because...
Well, I guess we are.
Well, we are because we're in the age group of retired people now, and there are organisations all over the world that are specifically set up to help older people continue to integrate into society. Just because you're 65 doesn't mean you're out. And we'd love to welcome Jayne Boase to the program. Jayne, what's your official title?
Oh, it's very smart. It's Festival Coordinator.
And this is of the Zest Fest, isn't it?
Yes, that's
Because
right.
you're full of zest.
We are.
And we're not talking about oranges and lemons.
No, we're not. We're not talking about oranges and lemons, although we like to have a full spectrum of colour, so there's definitely orange in there. Zestfest is the new name for what was previously known as the Every Generation Festival, which has been going in South Australia for 50 years. So this is its 50th year, and as a birthday present, we've given it a new name and a new look.
So this sort of festival, is this a national festival or is this exclusively South Australian?
No, look, there is National Seniors Week, which is celebrated in every state of Australia. And here in South Australia, we've always celebrated that with a festival. So
Is it hard to, everyone's very touchy these days about terminology, and saying seniors, is that a negative thing, do you think?
Look, it is something that is used to describe a certain demographic. It's not something that I generally use in my language. But Zestfest is a festival for modern ageing.
Hence, because we're all full of zest.
We are.
Are you?
I am now after my holiday.
No, but it's good to acknowledge the fact that that there is something specifically aimed at people of a so-called baby boomer retirement age group.
Well, we actually talk about people being 50, over
Plus.
50.
Yeah.
And we recognise that there's younger older and there's older. But I think, importantly, the work that we do here at COTA South Australia, and certainly celebrate that through Zest Fest, is thinking about how we're reframing ageing.
Right.
So,
Just clear up, COTA is Council
of the Ageing,
Yes.
but we tend to always use the acronym now.
And the trouble with acronyms, we often forget what they actually mean.
That's right.
Originally mean, but now we've cleared that up. So tell us about Zestfest, because I love the name.
Thank you, I do too. Well, as I say, Zestfest is very much a festival for modern ageing, and we like to think about that of how we would like to age ourselves, not how we remember our grandparents ageing or
Big
old
difference.
aunts and
Yes.
uncles. I think now people are ageing quite differently.
Do you think they're more active at now than they ever were? You think that life is like, you know, you get to 50 and it's, well, we haven't got much time left. We have to, you know, start ticking off those things on the bucket list. So,
well, for some people, that's definitely what they do. But if you think about it, we have a much, much longer period at the end of our lives where many people have stopped working, or plenty, like you've just been talking to me about, are still very active in volunteering and doing work. Maybe not necessarily paid work, but we have much, much longer lives now from when we actually stop working to when we...
Well, we're healthier longer.
Indeed.
And we're also, I think we're not sort of indoctrinated with the fact that, oh, you're 65, you just have to stop. Because
you have more choices these days.
So what is involved in Zestfest? What is the festival about?
Zestfest has got 3 themes to celebrate, and that's pretty obvious. We're celebrating modern ageing. We're celebrating how we are as we are ageing.
And how are we celebrating that?
Well, we have a variety of events, but we've got 2 other themes as well. We have Connect, so it's about how we're connecting with each other, how we're connecting with other people in our community and society, but also how we're connecting across different industries as well.
And how
age groups.
And how is that happening? We'll get to the third one in a minute.
Oh, you'd like me to give you a description of each one?
Just break it down a little bit more.
Okay, well, some of the highlights that we're doing in Zestfest is we've got a fabulous panel talk that's part of Open State, and that's called You Reckon That's Old. And we're doing all sorts of fun things there and lots of provocations around what is old. Is old the new black? Can old play sport, or is old on the couch? So we're really thinking long and hard about how to
And where can we participate in that?
That's going to be in Victoria Square on the 8th of October. So
that's right in the centre of Adelaide for
Absolutely.
People who don't live here?
Just the one day?
That's just a one-day event, but we have lots of other events as well. One of the other things that we're doing is a big projection art project, and that's happening right throughout South Australia, in Whyalla, Mount Gambier and Renmark, as well as Victor Harbour and Adelaide, where we're actually inviting people to take selfies.
Right.
And the question is, and you might like to answer this, Malcolm, what gives you zest in your life? So we're asking people to ponder this question, to think about what it is that provides you with that, and to respond to the question with a selfie.
That's really interesting. That's a really good question, because asking me that question, there's a million things going on in my head that keeps me going. But it's the fact that I am still going and able to go that gets me up in the morning, that I'm still able to work, I'm still able to be involved in people's lives.
And still love what you're doing.
Well, running a business where there are a lot of kids involved, so you're constantly sort of being G'd up, if you like, from the younger generation through. And with all of the flaws that maybe they have, they're still exciting because they are the future, you know. So we're in a position to affect the future.
Absolutely.
I think that would be my answer, that I'm still in a position to affect the future.
That's right. And those things are giving you some vitality or energy in your life that you might not get elsewhere. And it's quite a challenge to think about what gives you zest in your life. We think some people will be their grandchildren, lots of people it's gardening or hobbies. And of course, not everybody is familiar with taking a selfie or comfortable with that. So we're really sort of asking people to think about that and take selfies, take a photo, and then we're going to collate all of those together, and they're going to be part of big outdoor projections.
This is on buildings at night, obviously.
Buildings at night, and it will be happening in 4 regional areas around South Australia, and then again in Adelaide as well. So
this is basically just giving the public a better perception of people who are over 50, I guess, isn't it?
It is. It's about changing and reframing what we think about ageing, and we think that's absolutely key to the work that we do at COTA South Australia.
Right, and the third special thing that's happening?
Okay, we've got Celebrate, we've got Connect, and the last one is Challenge, and that is where we're really challenging those stereotypes, challenging what expectations we have about ageing, challenging what we do and how we participate as an older person in your community.
Somebody passed a brilliant quote: if we don't have art in our lives, we're nothing, which is probably the truth. We need things that are artistic. Even just watching TV is one of those things. But for the average person who is of an age, is this an encouragement to come out from your house, from where you're living, to participate in the world, or is it something that we can be doing at home as well?
Look, I think you can be involved in multiple ways. Clearly, you could take a selfie without ever leaving your house,
yes,
upload it, and then be part of the festival without being there. And for some people, that may be how they are going to participate, particularly if they're very remote. But there's plenty of opportunities to come out of your house as well. We've got over 200 registered community events, so there's going to be stuff happening right throughout South Australia. Things like old-style dances in Woodner. I'd love to be able to go to that. Right through to going to the Art Gallery of South Australia, having a glass of champagne and talking with the Paul Vasilev, who's the Paolo Sebastian gown maker.
Yes, we actually want to get Paul on this program. I've been talking with people. And Paul, if you happen, or somebody that knows Paul, I'm very keen to talk to him. Our email address will be at the end of the program. But that's good. I'll talk to you about that afterwards, because we'd like to talk to him. Because he is influencing the way fashion is going in this particular state, but internationally as well.
Absolutely. And the Art Gallery is going to have a curated exhibition with works that relate to his gowns, so it'll be quite immersive. But for Zestfest audiences, we've secured a little bit of time with the curator and with Paul, so there'll be a chance for that really fabulous one-on-one, smaller group, have a tour and get to really hear a bit more about it. So we're finding opportunities that should appeal to a really broad range of people, from that right through to getting involved in the local community dance or being a more passive audience member. So there's very many ways to get involved.
So watching performances, do you mean by that?
Absolutely.
Yes, great.
Absolutely.
So how do we find out about this? This is the other important thing.
Well, there's websites, so that's the best way to find out. And there will certainly be programs available throughout South Australia, but you can also go on the website.
Right, and where would we find the hard copy printed programs?
The hard copy printed programs you should be able to get at your local library, local government centre, local council.
Just making that point, not everybody is crazy to get on the computer. We've talked a lot about that on this program, but these are the instances where you really need to try and keep up with what is going on in the world, and the computer is the best way to find that out. As I found out about the program in the first place, because you sent me an email.
Fantastic.
And I wouldn't have known otherwise. So, look, thank you so much. Can you stay with us, because Greg's waiting in the wings and we're just going to have a chat before we say goodbye.
Absolutely. Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Jayne.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back in a tick.
We've been talking with Greg and Jayne. Thank you so much for coming in. I did want to ask you, though, when does this festival start and when does it end?
Zestfest begins on the 7th of October and runs through to the 27th of October.
Okay.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Just when Cabaret under the Star, right towards the end of that.
well.
Fantastic. Greg, and how can people find out more about the History Trust generally?
You can find information about our various museums and our public programs and our annual festival by going to www.history.sa.gov.au.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with everything that you're... Well, as Greg knows this only too well, when you're organising big events like this, it's just sleepless nights.
She says with a big smile on her face. Yes, sure.
It's the coordination of people coming together, isn't it?
It is.
And making it possible for everyone to hook in and enjoy what you're offering.
Absolutely.
So good luck with the
Yeah,
festival.
we look forward to it.
Greg, come back and tell us about something new in your life soon, because it's always different.
Thank you.
Now, we'd love to hear from you also about people that you'd like to see on OurTime before the end of this year, wouldn't we?
Well, we would, because we don't know if we're going to be here any longer than that.
No, we don't. But you know, things are happening, and
Well, it did,
it was
didn't
very
it?
interesting having Nick Xenophon on this program, because Nick went into bat for community television throughout Australia and has genuinely made a difference. So we hope that those thoughts will continue as the government is continuing to make decisions. Now, if you'd like to contact us, here is our address for Facebook and an email address. And if there is somebody you'd like to see on the program, we'd love to hear from you. Janice?
Yes, we would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us.
That.
Yes, I know.
Is this old people taking over? Did I just say that before?
I'm a senior citizen now. I have my senior's
Oh,
card.
just tell me what it's like when I get there, please. Look, until next time on OurTime, keep yourself nice till we see you then, and
Yes, take care. Bye for now.
bye.